Hey everyone, it is the Derf, and today I've got an excellent Prismatic Strand Warlock build for you. This build features lots of green, excellent boss DPS. There is a little bit of a cycle that I'm going to go through with how you need to roll with it if you're going to maximize its potential. Without further ado, let's get on into it. So obviously, first up, we've got the Needle Storm Super. Now I want you to take a look, just as you have in past videos, at that base cooldown, 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Absolutely an absurd time to have to wait for your super, but lucky for you, I've got a way that will minimize that and also maximize your primary ad clearing weapon once you do have your super, if you're not ready to pop it quite yet. So let's continue on. As far as abilities go, you can pick what you like. I like the Healing Rift, the Burst Glide, Arcane Needle. It pairs absolutely perfectly with this build. The Threadling Grenade. You can also go with, if you wanted to do a Vortex Grenade or Cold Snap Grenade, really anything that just does damage is what you want, but I think the Threadling Grenade is perfect for this. You're going to generate a lot of threadlings, and adding a few more to the bunch that are already out there when you're wheeling and dealing, it's going to be a sight to see. As far as aspects go, Weaver's Call, it gives you 3 fragment slots. Activate your class ability to weave 3 threadlings and to deploy any threadlings you have perched. So if you have up to 5 perched threadlings and you activate your class ability, 8 of these suckers are going to go out searching for enemies. Targets defeated by strand damage have a chance to generate a perched threadling. So you have a chance to get some of these back after you have deployed this, and that happens all the time with this build. Next aspect we have is the Hellion. You've heard me say that I love this one. It gives you 3 fragment slots, which allows us to get 6 total. And lobbing a solar explosive at enemies is always a good time in my book. And it's also a good way to get an early little tick down on damage if you're going up against a very potent boss. As far as stat distribution goes, as is with most classes, I focus on resilience, discipline, and intellect. And as you can see here, I've got T9 on all 3. I've got a T4 on recovery. We have a fix for that going into the armor later on. And a T3 for the strength. I've got a fix for that as well once we get to the armor. Mobility doesn't really matter. Some people like to have that at like the T4, T5 area, but it's really not going to affect this build. What you're going to be mainly focusing in on is generating as many abilities as you can so you can throw your Arcane Needle and you can throw your Threadling Grenade all at once or in a cycle type fashion, along with using your class ability to generate as many green threadlings on the screen as possible and giving yourself unraveling rounds to your strand weapons. That is the main goal of this, is to create as much chaos with green on the screen as you possibly can. As far as fragments go, first fragment I got is Facet of Awakening. Rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage or super final blows generates an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. You get plus 10 resilience on this as well. So, rapidly defeating targets with strand weapons. Let's just go with that for a while. Tangles and not a strand matter swirling with potential. You can pick them up. You can shoot them. I prefer to shoot them, although there are times where I'll pick one up, carry it a bit, and then just dump it on a group of ads just to clear the room. Either way, you can't go wrong. It's going to fit into whatever kind of play style that you want, and it's the perfect first fragment option. Second fragment, we've got picking up an Facet of Purpose. Picking up an Orb of Power grants either Amplified Restoration Frost Armor, Woven Mail, or overshield based on the damage type of your equipped super. So you're going to get woven mail. Your body is encased in a protective mesh of tightly woven strand matter, greatly reducing any incoming non-precision damage. You're going to be generating a lot of orbs of power with this build, so you're constantly going to have uptime on your woven mail, which basically means if you want it to be, which is kind of how I designed this, this can be a run and gun class as well as kind of a DPS monster if you are running content where you come up against one of those extremely potent bosses that take forever to whittle down. But we're going to get into how that's going to work here in a little bit. Third one, Facet of Solitude. Landing rapid precision hits amidst a severing blast from the target, while Transcendent, the severing blast is bigger. Now, sever, the target's connections to the world around them are cut, and their outgoing damage is significantly reduced. So severed targets unwind into a tangle when defeated. So if you do land those precision hits and that severing blast happens and it severs them and it kills them, you're going to get a tangle right from that. So again, another fragment to boost your ability to generate those green balls, those strand matters that you can do what you want with to either damage heavies, clear more space for yourself, or pick them up and throw them from a distance, whichever you prefer. Next, we've got the Facet of Sacrifice. While you have an Arc, Solar, or Void buff, ability Final Blows grant bonus Darkness Transcendence energy. Now, you're not really going to have a hard time building up Dark Transcendent energy. However, the plus 10 kick to Discipline, I think, is worth it for your grenade uptime. Your light buffs include Amplified, Cure, Radiant, Restoration, Devour, Invisibility, and Overshield. With the artifact perk, you're going to get Radiant. So that means that anytime your Arc, Solar, or Void buff ability Final Blows, they're going to grant you Darkness Transcendent energy. Bonus, I should say. And since you've got the Hellion up here, you're going to occasionally kill some things just by popping your class ability. So that's another reason why I think it's worth it. Since you are so strand heavy on this, it's beneficial to have a way to generate as much Transcendence energy in both light and dark as possible. Next, we've got the Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. So again, easy way to get back your abilities just by cycling between your two main weapons, your light weapon and your darkness weapon. Lastly, we've got the Facet of Honor. Collecting an elemental pickup or destroying a tangle grants Transcendence energy of the same type. Now, if you're using and cycling back and forth between a darkness energy weapon and a light energy weapon, this is going to be possible just based on whatever setup that you prefer to run with. And you'll see here in a second what weapons I've got. I'll get fire sprites. I'll get tangles. So either way, I'm covered as long as I'm just killing what's in front of me. As far as weapons go, this is kind of an open box. This is not an open and shut case as far as what you need to run. But let me explain how I'm setting it up so that you can have the add clear potential, the stunning potential, and then ultimately your DPS potential. So first up, Rufus's Fury. I've got it with Reconstruction and Hatchling. So if you don't know what Hatchling is or you don't have weapons that have it, Precision Final Blows or rapidly defeating targets with this weapon spawn a Threadling at the target's location. So again, I'm doing everything I can to generate that green matter, to generate those Threadlings, because I want to be able to have as many little allies roaming around me as possible. Either throwing them as a grenade, popping them with the tangles, with your class ability, or just generating it from a weapon kill. I want that, period. You're not going to wow the masses with lots of bright light. What you're going to be doing is generating as much green on the screen and letting the green work for you. And remember, any green kill that you get, whether that's tangles, threadlings, or your weapon, is going to give you that transcendent energy. And if you've got it set up right, hopefully give you a couple extra orbs of power along the way, thereby getting you your super back even faster. As far as the energy weapon, I've got the solar sidearm with the special ammo, the new one. It is amazing. Beacon rounds and incandescent. I'm using those in tandem. A lot of people will want the heel clip. I'm going to have woven mail, so I don't really think the heel clip is going to be as potent for me as it might be for someone who isn't running a strand class that'll pop woven mail. Strand is not exactly meta right now. There's been some help along the way, but it's a solar heavy season. So you want to be able to compete with the top DPS as far as endgame stuff goes, and you want to be able to compete with the amazing ad clear ability that you know Strand already is, and try to build yourself up as kind of a two-tier player. Not really a support class, it's more of a run and gun and then get some quick damage in a short amount of time type class. So this sidearm pairs great with it because you can scorch stuff, and scorching stuff means damaging it with light energy, which means you're going to get that transcendence energy on both sides of the spectrum to regenerate faster. Finally, for the heavy, I've got microcosm. If you have not gotten microcosm, I 100% recommend it. The way that I have this class built is as much around generating tangles as it is generating amazing DPS that's going to compete with all the top classes out there. Microcosm's main perk, which is paracasual imbuement. Final blows with this weapon grant super energy. The weapon gains bonus damage once your super expires. So, because we are running the Strand super here on Warlock, it's a pop and go. You hit your super, it does its thing, and you can keep moving. It's not a long super phase. It's not, you're not rolling with the solar super, which you have to wear down by constantly activating it. It is exactly like Nova Bomb for the Void class that I've got, except it's Strand. So Strand's version of the Nova Bomb, obviously the Needle Storm, once you hit it, it's done. And you have a buff for bonus damage for this microcosm for a period of time afterwards. Most regular gameplay, there's not going to be a boss that's strong enough for you to really experience it. But if you do use this in raids, pop your super, then go to your heavy and just watch the numbers insanely go up. I just did Riven the other day, and in one damage phase, myself and another clanmate, we were doing right around 3 million DPS. And we used this weapon. We popped our supers, hit this weapon, and made sure we were hitting our crit spots. It was awesome. So if you've never thought about getting this weapon, you think the juice is not worth the squeeze as far as getting this weapon in general, absolutely. And if you need help accomplishing this, I'm more than willing to help you, or at least point you in the direction of someone who can. Microcosm pairs well with this because you get that bonus to DPS. So after your Needle Storm, which is already kind of a higher tier damage super, is over, you can instantly swap to Microcosm and just absolutely level it. As far as armor goes, I've got the harmonic siphon on here. I've got dual harmonic siphons. The reason I don't have anything else on here is there's not really going to be anything that I feel is going to help me in such a way that's worth the amount of energy it's going to take. The only one that might be worth it is if you do like using that solar sidearm a lot, you can swap one of those siphons with the solar siphon. The reason I don't really need to do that, though, in my opinion, again, I have this built for how I'm playing. The reason I don't do that is because I'm relying on that primary ammo weapon to be my ad clear. That sidearm is for yellow bars. It's for DPS phases when I run out of ammo or I've got just a little bit of health left. It's for champs. That sidearm for me, even though it's got incandescent on it, which again I'm going to use if I get completely overwhelmed and I have no ammo left in my primary, it's not made to be when I'm crutching. So the amount of times that I'm going to be rapidly defeating people, it's just not going to be up there. But on the few times that I do use it, I'm going to have some incandescent, splash damage. That's where it's going to come in and help me get transcendent. I've got the heavy ammo finder because I'm rolling with the legendary weapon to try to generate ammo in the first place. And then I have a buff to my discipline. As far as the gauntlets go, I've got the font of vigor. So obviously my T3 for strength will be bumped up to T10 once I collect a couple of orbs of power. So my strength, my arcane needle will be regenerating as quickly as possible. Harmonic loader increases the reload speed of my strand weapon. I've got double of these because, again, I'm not crutching on microcosm. I'm not crutching on the sidearm. My main ad clear, my main starting every encounter weapon is going to be my strand weapon. Next, I've got one of the probably most unpopular selections for a class like this, Mantle of Battle Harmony. Now, I've used this before in other builds, my Solar Warlock build. I love this exotic chess piece, but it's going to be even more important because I am not running any dealer's choice weapons in this build, which means if I can get a buff to my super regen without having to crutch on the call or no hesitation or any of the other ghost weapons or pale heart weapons in general, I'm going to do it. So the mindset behind having Mantle of Battle Harmony is my ability to get my super and then ride Rufus with bonus damage coming from it. Final blows with weapons matching your equipped super damage type grant you super energy. When your super energy is full, you instead gain a temporary bonus to weapon damage of that type. Now, you could 100% make a case, and I've got one here. Why aren't you using Spirit of the Necrotic and Spirit of the Swarm in this build, Durf? Honestly, why? Why would I use that when it's not going to help me generate orbs of power faster? Everything has a cooldown in this game. Okay, that's just the way it is. If you could constantly have no cooldown time on any ability, people would be spamming that ability into oblivion, and everyone would be using that. The cooldown is what separates the good from the great. It's being able to play the differences between the cooldown. Necrotic and Spirit of the Swarm is great. Are you trying to solo a Master Lost Sector? Great. You are not trying to clear a room full of ads. You are trying to get as much damage out of it as possible. That is where this would come in. You get those threadlings, you get the extra damage from the melee, and you can bomb whatever you're trying to shoot at with help from this type of class item. For me, I want my super back as fast as possible because when I pop it, the immediate next thing that I'm planning on doing is using microcosm. Unless it's in the middle of like a Vanguard strike, then I'm just popping it because, I know I'm going to get it back before the boss damage fades. It's mainly just, I don't want to use the term for show, but Needlestorm is powerful enough that you don't need to back it up with microcosm in most content unless you're really facing some really high-end champs. So after I pop Needlestorm, microcosm is coming out. And the only way to get your imbuement buff is by releasing your super before pulling out microcosm. So I want my super back as fast as possible. I know that's not a super popular pick, but it works for me. I get this super in as little as 1 minute. And yes, I understand Needlestorm is not the most powerful one out there. It doesn't matter because as soon as that medium to high powered super is done, I'm pulling out arguably the most DPS friendly weapon in the game in Microcosm. The only thing that competes with that is Still Hunt. And Still Hunt is more appropriate for hunters. Moving on. Getting off my soapbox. As far as the leg armor goes, I've got Double Absolution and Kinetic Scavenger. The reason I have Kinetic Scavenger, I want more bonus rounds for my Microcosm, and I also just realized that I completely skipped over what I have on here. Double Kinetic Reserves. At any one time, I can carry about 400 rounds for Microcosm. And if you're using a legendary weapon to generate heavy ammo bricks, you know sometimes those ammo bricks are few and far between. So when I get one, I want as much as possible, and these two complement each other. Yes, I know that Absolution has a diminishing return, but I don't really care what ability comes back to me first, because whatever ability comes back to me first, that's the ability that's going to start my cycle. Again, this is not going to generate as many orbs as, say, a Solar Warlock. It's just not. Strand is not fire. Strand is not stasis. Strand is not arc. Strand is not void. It doesn't have lingering effects. What it has is the ability to basically chunk damage a lot of enemies real quick. And that's why I love it. That's why a lot of people love it. As far as the class item, this is where I added something that I don't normally have in here. My build was good enough. I didn't really need the extra grenade. I'm not really concerned about the extra 7 seconds it's going to take to get my grenade back. But what I do want is my recovery to be buffed every time I pick up an orb of power. And like I said, you're going to be generating a lot of these just by rolling with Rufus. So that's going to be constantly up. As far as time dilation, again, it's on every class I have. It's on every class that anyone ever asked me to recommend for them. And then finally, Reaper. So here we go. This is going to help you generate orbs of power. Shortly after using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an orb of power. So if you're surrounded by enemies, you pop your class item, or you pop your class ability. You clear a little bit of space, and then you start shooting again. You're going to get that orb of power. The amount of time it takes you to get your class ability back and being able to generate an orb of power, you'll probably kill, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 10 to 20 enemies. Again, depending on how heavy your situation is. So you're going to get that orb of power in between getting orbs of power. That's how the cycle works with this. Constantly popping your class ability. And it takes enough time to generate that you're not going to be spamming it. But you're going to be relying on two things. You're going to be relying on your grenades, and you're going to be relying on this, and you're going to be relying on your Strand primary weapon to generate your orbs of power. So you got 3 possibilities for orbs of power. You're not really going to be hurting if you're not T10 in any one stat. You just aren't. Plus, you've got Woven Mail, so your resilience becomes a non-issue anyways. As far as the Hunter's Journal, now this is what I have selected. This allows you to bring other weapons into this build as long as you keep Microcosm to get what you're looking for. So for example, I have Anti-Barrier Pulse Rifle and Unstoppable Sidearm. The Unstoppable Sidearm is obviously for my energy weapon, but none of the rest of these apply to what I have, and that's fine. But if by chance you have a really great roll of a couple of those Strand Pulse Rifles, there's your next anti-barrier. So you got anti-barrier and the ability to stun champs. That's how this build can work for you. This build is not a one-size-fits-all, but the way that I have it set up, you can put any Strand weapon in rotation that you love, get that super quick, and then have Microcosm to really round out your DPS phase. Logic Reductor. Weapons with the Transposer origin deal increased damage to Vex. And Overcharged Armory. Always overcharge weapons when you have that modifier active. The next one I've got is Elemental Siphon. Rapid final blows with a kinetic weapon or a weapon matching your equipped super. Create an elemental pickup that matches your equipped super. So again, There's no breaches, there's no sprites, there's no anything, there's no traces. With Strand, it is tangles, it is threadlings. So this is your elemental siphon. You get that threadling, you get that tangle. I mean, you're set. Now you've got another weapon. Force multiplier, you on the battlefield, now you can throw it in a direction that maybe you haven't focused on in a while and continue on the path with where you're going. Scavenger mods, 100%. I always recommend putting this on. It doesn't matter what scavenger, what element you're using, even kinetic. That mod cost is 1 energy. It totally frees up a slot so you can put on whatever you want. Threaded blast, destroying a tangle with a strand weapon creates a larger and more damaging explosion. I don't really think I need to explain this. You're going to have a lot of these tangles and you're using Rufus or a strand weapon in general. So do the math. Radiant orbs, while you have a solar or prismatic subclass equipped, which we have prismatic equipped, picking up an orb of power makes you radiant. So again, you're going to get that bonus to light, transcendence, regeneration with this, and the darkness as well. While you have woven mail, frost armor, or avoid overshield, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. So again, I'm not worried about having ashes to assets or anything like that on my helmet because I've got shield crush. Now, shield crush goes away. We can talk about how I can modify this to still have the same type of game style that I'm wanting to play without this perk to fall back on. But, I'm not hurting for melee charge. And again, I've got the font on there to give me my melee charge back as fast as possible. Last but not least, gain increased grenade and melee damage while transcendent. Weapon final blows while transcendent refund light and dark energy after transcendence ends. So again, if you're going crazy, you pop transcendence and you are trying to clear a room full of ads, this perk right here is going to refund a ton of that energy back to you. So you have to do less work to get it back the next time. So just make sure when you pop transcendence, you are doing work. Don't just pop it in between damage phases and hope for the best, because you're going to have a long way to go before it refunds you any kind of energy back if you're not surrounded by enemies or going to be. As far as the ghost mod, again, if you haven't maxed your Act 2 experience, pump this up to a 6, get that extra XP. Wombo detector, this is incredibly helpful if you're farming the class item in the Pale Heart. You can detect cache or resources within a 50-meter range. And then ultimate glimmer boost, you're always going to need glimmer for everything. The only thing that I would switch this out with, if I were to switch it out with, is if I'm running overthrows, increase loot from public events on all destinations. And then finally, core harvest. You need cores for practically everything, so why not get a bump to how often you get them? So there you have it. Now again, I built this class for me. My other 2 classes, my other 3 that I've got released right now before this for Warlock are more of a loose build as far as what you can do with those. This is one of those where you sort of have to stick with the strand to carry you. And that's kind of what it's about. And then when you need it, you've got the microcosm. When you finally get to that boss phase, when you finally get to that really bad champ, when you finally get to a situation where, hey, your sidearm is not going to, cut it enough to make up for how much you actually need. And again, Mantle of Battle Harmony is great. A lot of people don't even use that with Strand, which I don't know why. Because if you really wanted to, you could switch microcosm out and put Pro Memoria, put that target lock on, and you've got that dealer choice buff. You could switch this out if you wanted. If you didn't want to run the prismatic class, let's just say you wanted to run Strand. Matter of fact, maybe I'll do the one, later on after I get done with all the prismatic builds. If you didn't want the sidearm, you can have a way that you can have all 3 of your weapons be strand weapons. So you're constantly filling Mantle of Battle Harmony up. And that is Tessellation. I don't have it equipped here because it's kind of going to be pointless to have it on here. But if you don't have Microcosm but you have Tessellation, throw on your Pro Memoria, switch out your sidearm. If you don't like the sidearm or you don't have a good roll, put on Tessellation. Let me know what you think about that, because I can tell you for a fact it does go with Mantle of Battle Harmony. And then Rufus, if you don't like Rufus, you can run the legendary version of the new exotic auto rifle, put on Attrition Orbs and Demolitionist, and you're going to have a dealer's choice weapon. A lot of people don't even realize this is a dealer's choice weapon. So you're going to get that bump to super, which also pairs with the Mantle of Battle Harmony for your matching super weapon kills. Sorry, grenade. Is it grenade? Yeah. Yeah, it's the super energy elemental weapon takedowns. So, and then you can switch these siphons out to whatever you're running. And obviously the bonus to this is that you're going to get equal parts darkness and light transcendence. So obviously this one is going to be open for interpretation. A lot of people are going to, probably look at this, raise an eyebrow, go, well, you don't have necrotic grip. You don't have, Spirit of the Swarm or Spirit of the Necrotic, the class item. You don't have, you don't have any, have swarmers. I could do this so much better than you if I was building this class. This is not a one size fits all. This is the play style that fits me because my goal is to get my super as fast as possible. So if you like the Needle Storm, this build is going to work for you exactly as I have it. In my opinion, it is one of the best all-around options out there. So now I'm just going to roll into the Pale Heart. I'm just going to give you a kind of a tease on how it works. Again, we're not going to get to a boss that's going to showcase enough, health points to where I'm going to have to pop Needle Storm and then use Microcosm for a steady amount of time to get that health bar down. So the main focus is here, how fast are you going to get your super? How many threadlings are you going to generate without having Spirit of the Swarm, Necrotic, all those things buffing you at the same time. So let's take a peek and see. Again, not going to do anything special here, just coming through. Going to get, there we go. We got Severance already. And that's going to be your play. This is not going to be the quickest super regenerating class out there, but as you can see, I'm not hurting for threadlings. I got 2 right here. And again, every kill that I get with Rufus is buffing my super. So I've been here for like 30 seconds, maybe not even, and I've already got enough of my super regen to make it noticeable. And again, pretty much by the way, I should probably point out I don't have any Pale Heart mods. The Spirit of the Traveler, or whatever you want to call it. I don't have any of those equipped. I just loaded in. I actually haven't been farming the class item for a while because I've been doing these videos. But it's important to note, I'm not doing anything within the Pale Heart that I'm not going to have outside the Pale Heart. So I don't have any extra buffs. But again, I'm crutching on the Strand Weapon because my goal is to clear the screen as well as build up my super. So it's been about a minute. Here we go. Probably with this kill here. Yep, there you go. So I'll have to get an exact measurement on there. I'll put it in the comments, or I'll put it in the description of the video how long it actually took me to get my super. But you saw me. It's not like the enemies were just, so here's a good. So you see that explosion right there? That's what the incandescent's for, and there you go. There's a fire sprite. So you're gonna get that transcendence energy equally. Now, if you want to quickly bump up your light energy, roll through a couple of kills with this. Again, the beacons round is nice because I'm going to be doing a little bit of splash damage. So just like that, you see how quickly it powers up the light transcendence energy. So anyways, that's the build. This is a great example of if you don't have a lot of enemies in a short amount of time, how quickly can you get your super and transcendence energy with just a little bit of effort. That's why this class works for me. That's why this build works for me. True, it's not meta DPS, but Microcosm is second to none. Its only real competition right now is probably Still Hunt. And again, with Still Hunt, you're going to have to play a very specific way in order to get maximum DPS out of that. So if you found anything helpful in this video, anything at all that made you raise an eyebrow or possibly resonated with you, make sure hit that like and subscribe button. I'm going to be switching over to hunter builds coming up here in the next short amount of time. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to start working on one tomorrow after I finish this one up. And if you know anyone that is looking for a good strand build that they can build off of, again, this is not a one-size-fits-all. This is, you know, hey, this worked for me. You know, this is how it can work for you, but if you prefer to play a different way, you absolutely can. Let me know. I appreciate all the support, all the feedback. The channel has been steadily growing, and I attribute that, you know, to people that are out there looking for a little bit of help, looking to be able to add, you know, their 2 cents on videos like this. I appreciate all the feedback. I really do. I don't care if it's good or bad, because all it's going to do is help me up my game, and I'm not sitting here saying that I know everything about this game, because I 100% don't. So again, thank you for the support. Thank you for checking out my previous videos. I'm going to have shorts for this as well, where I showcase in places other than the Pale Heart this class doing some pretty good dirty work. I appreciate it. Take care, guys.